What's up, guys? It's Ari, and today we are going to be continuing with Eye of the World, the first book in the Wheel of Time series, and we're going to be talking about chapters 11 to 15, so we're just going to get straight into it. So we start off right as the party heads out for the beginning of their journey. They're heading for the Terran Ferry. They need to cross this river. But on their way to Terran Ferry, they are attacked by the Drakkar that was like soaring in the sky. I don't remember the descriptions of the Drakkar, but I still think it's some sort of like bat dragon hybrid, potentially. Either way, it starts to attack them, and for a period of time they just start running, and Moiraine basically summons this fog to cover them as they're like running away. Eventually they do get to Terran Ferry safely, and they basically just bribe their way onto the ferry as it's like pretty late, and the ferry master, he takes the bribe basically, and they just start to cross the river. The vibe on the ferry was pretty sketchy, I felt like, but nothing really comes of it until they get off the ferry, and Moiraine like literally conjures up a whirlpool and like sinks the ferry. So she's not taking any chances. She doesn't want anybody crossing. Yeah, she's not taking any chances. They journey a bit longer, and we basically get this big reveal that happens during a conversation between Moiraine and Egwene, where Moiraine basically tells her that she is attuned to the One Power, and she's quite naturally attuned to it. Like, she seems to have very raw power. Moiraine gives a bit of an explanation of the One Power, and we get a bit of lore. So there are two aspects of the One Power. There's the male and the female. The male is called Sayadine, and the female is called Saidar. I recall her saying that the male is attuned to fire and earth, whereas the female is more attuned to wind and water. But I don't know if they're exclusive. But back to the story, Moiraine basically tells Egwene that she has a great deal of potential, and that she would benefit from coming to Tar Valon and being trained by the Aes Sedai. And she actually responds pretty positively to this. Rand doesn't, but Rand, if I recall, is like listening in on this conversation from like the bushes, and I think Moiraine is aware that she's there, and yeah, he's not very happy that she seems to actually not mind the idea of becoming Aes Sedai. So it's very clear that Rand is not very trusting of the Aes Sedai based on these stories he's heard. So again, after some more journeying, because there's a lot of journeying in this book, and I'm assuming there's going to be a lot more journeying because they have a lot of distance to cover. The party finally gets to Baerlin. Moiraine and Lan like preface before they even arrive there, like, we're lying low. They were going under fake names. I believe Moiraine was called Mistress Alice, and Lan was called Master Andra, I think. Yeah, they get into Baerlin, and they head straight for an inn called the Stag and Lion. Master Finch is the owner, and he's a very sweet guy. They talk to him for a little bit, and then everyone basically just goes for a bath. Moiraine basically reiterates to everybody to lie low because they're going to stay there a couple of nights. And then Rand goes to sleep. He has an encounter with Baalzamon, the Dark One. So he unintentionally does the most not low-key thing ever, and his first decision when he wakes up is to not tell Moiraine and Lan, the two people who he has joined to get him somewhere safe from that person. Weird decision, but I'm trying to understand it. After he comes to that conclusion, he just starts like running into a bunch of people and just gets into a bunch of situations, and at some point he meets up with Matt, and Matt is a delinquent, and again causes a ruckus. So they're killing it. We start with Rand. I think he meets up with Master Finch at first. He sees him and Master Finch is like having an issue with a cook. I think they're like quitting or something like that. And then he meets someone named Min. And she knows Moiraine and Lan's real names. She is familiar with the pattern. And she seems to have some sort of precognition. And she literally tells Rand something along the lines of their paths are sort of entwined. So my guess is that she's going to be like a love interest of his. But because there's like 14 of these books, I would assume it's going to be kind of a slow progression thing. But that's my guess. And as if things couldn't get stranger, Rand like notices Padan Fain, the peddler from like the 3rd chapter, just in the crowd at Bear Lynn, and it comes off pretty like sketchy. It comes off pretty sketchy. Yeah. But then he just like keeps walking, and then he meets up with Matt. They do seem to be having the same dreams, so Perrin is probably having the same dreams as well. And then Matt decides to just like mess with some white cloaks, and basically cause a big scene, and everyone like probably remembers them now. Then they move on from there and they walk into Tom, and they tell Tom about their dreams. And then they go to, I believe, the Stag and Lion, and they walk into Perrin, and they say, "Hey, Perrin," and Perrin goes, "Nynaeve is here." So that's a thing. I have a few questions. 1. What is Nynaeve doing there? Where is Tam? How did she cross the river? What the hell is Padan Fain doing in Bear Lynn? Who the hell is Min? And what is Padan Fain doing in Bear Lynn? Either way, I'm excited to see what the next 5 chapters have in store. But for now, comment your thoughts on what you think of these 5 chapters. If you want to see the next video right when it comes out, please subscribe. But until then, I'll see you guys next time.